Salvete omnes, ego sum magister Sullivan. Welcome back. We're going through the Aeneid, lines, or book 1, lines 81 through 101. So here we have, we've just had Queen Juno go to King Aeolus, the king of the winds, who lives on Aeolia, asking him for his help in dispersing, scattering, killing Aeneas's troops or crew or fleet on the ocean. And in return, she will give him a Diopia, who is one of the most beautiful of her 14 nymphs. And with her, he can ensure a long lasting marriage and beautiful, beautiful offspring. And so we'll see how he handles this. So we have ubi is when these words, right? So we have haik dicta, when these words, there should be a sunt here. When these words were said, um, he being Iolus, he struck. Here's our head verb. He struck I'm sorry. The numbers tell us to do something differently. So with his spear, the spear tip. This is the tip of the spear. So it's something called synecdoche. With the tip of the spear having been overturned, he struck, or he strikes. Probably strikes. He strikes the empty mountain, the cavernous mountain, on its side, against the side, into the side. Okay, so notice here in line 81, we notice the chiasmus, right? And then there's also ellipsis too here, because sunt should be there, but it's not. And then there's also enjambment right here, as you can see. That's like instead of it having been finished on one line, it's spilled over to the next. And the winds, we have to go all the way down here to find our head verb. Here's our head verb. The winds rush. They rush just like in a battle formation, a battle line having been made. So here's our participle. We had a participle up here. So this was called an ablative absolute. We'll talk about this in class. And this is also one of those ablative absolutes. Right? And notice the chart over here that I was asked to make, which I'm happy to oblige. So we have nominative or subjects in orange, accusatives as direct objects, and objects of prepositions and accusatives. We have ablatives, which are basically all prepositions. There are some other uses of it too. We have genitives, which is basically used as possessive, but there are other uses that we'll talk about too. Datives are primarily used as indirect object in reference. And then we have vocatives in this context because we have people talking, as well as we did last time. Okay. And the winds rush, just like or just in. So we have a comparison here in a battle formation, a battle line having been drawn, having been made, where a gate is provided. Right. So we're missing an est here for data. Here's our main verb. This is a passive verb. We should have it is provided. It was provided actually, and they blow. The winds blow. Wenti. The winds blow the lands in a or sweep over the lands in a whirlwind. We get the word turbine here. So notice the ablative use. Okay. They sweep over. So this is one of those perfect alternate spellings, right? And we always see this in poetry. They sweep over the sea and they sweep over the entire earth from the lowest seats, from the roots or from the foundations, from the lowest depths. Again, okay. And then we have Eurus, Notus, and Africus. So all together. So we'll start with this all together. Eurus and Notus. These are names of the winds as capitalized, and Africus. And then there's a hyperlink into the original doc to take you to which winds these are. And they are frequent with, or they are packed with storms or squalls. Notice the ablative use there. And they rush forward, right? And they turn over the huge or vast waves to the shores. And the shouting, and we have a genitive use of the men, the shouting of the men, and the shrieking of the ropes follows. Right. So here is their main verb, in so it's usually from sequitur or sequitur. This is a deponent verb, so it looks passive but is actually active. Okay. Notice also, I mean, even though they're not the same, so these things are similar and these things are similar. So um, we have synchesis. But also, if you go back up, you have quay, quay, multiple connectives, and we have multiple connectives here with quay and quay. This just highlights or accentuates. It's called polysyndeton, or when you have like too many connectives. But this is highlighting the rapidity in the ruinous nature of the winds themselves. Suddenly, here's our subject: the clouds rip out or snatch out the sky and the day from the eyes of the Trojans, right? Okay, so night is quickly gone, and we have enjambment there too. And a black or dark night. So we have a dark night or black night broods, or hovers, lies over the sea. So yet again, another word for sea, ponto. Um, Here, this is a perfect verb again. Remember, we saw that just a bit ago, right? That's the alternate spelling for perfect verbs in poetry. So the poles, they resounded, right? And the upper air flashes, twinkles, with frequent fires, probably lightning, right? And everything portends or everything threatens a instant death for the men. So here we have the praesenten mortem kind of um, bracketing this whole phrase. All right, and then we have for the men. This is a dative of use. This is a dative of reference or probably disadvantage. Okay, and so we have immediately um, Aeneas's limbs. So we have the genitive going with membra. Aeneas's limbs are let loose in a chill or in the cold. And then we have it in Jamet here. He groans, right? And he is. Um, it's an understood subject. Aeneas groans. So Aeneas. This is a present participle, extending his double palms, his two palms, to the stars. So this is an example of hyperbole. Hyperbole is excessive exaggeration. So as to accentuate his grief, his pain. Um, and then we continue on. He reports, he says these things, such things, in this voice or in his voice. He says, and this is oter quater beoti, o 3 and 4 times blessed. Okay, he's he's using the vocative to talk about the people who had died at the gates of Troy during the Trojan War, which he's fled from. And so we have quay and quay again, which is again that's excessive conjunctions or connectives. So that's polysyndeton. And so for whom or for whose lot it was to perish, to die, before the faces of their fathers, parents, most likely. So we have a genitive, the faces of. This means mouths of, but mouth is the one thing for the whole thing. So it's that synecdoche there. Synecdoche being one small part to reference the whole, right? So this is really a faces. And it is their lot to meet their death, or was their lot to meet their death, or to perish under the lofty walls or at the lofty walls of Troy. Oh, Tydeus. And Tydeus is the same one as Diomedes. Most brave. And so here we have the vocative again. So the bravest or Tydeus, the bravest of the Greek clan, the Greek people. Okay. All right, and so then we have, so he's calling to Diomedes, and then so we have kind of like an indirect statement here that um, we have could have. So this is a perfect infinitive, so that I could have fallen, I could have died on the fields of Troy, right? On the fields of Troy. And to pour forth this life, this soul, with your right hand. Um, so, and then here we have chiasmus, right? So we had synchesis up there, and then we have chiasmus down here. And then this is where. So where cruel Hector, savage Hector lies, and he lies dead by the weapons of the house of Aeacus, which is the family line of Achilles, right? So basically, you could say by the weapons of Achilles, where huge Sarpedon lies. Sarpedon was a famous Trojan, and there are hyperlinks into the original doc, right, that you can look up these people. But Aeacus is the founding or patron of the Achilles family. From him comes his son Peleus. From Peleus, there's Achilles. Right? And Hector is the greatest of the Trojans. And then where the Simois, this is a river in Troy. This probably, for all intents and purposes, the Scamander, where the Simois. Then we go all the way down here for our main verb, and we have a bunch of objects. We have corrupta going with scuta, we have galeas, and then we have corpora. So those are all our objects. So where the Simois turns over, rolls over, the shields having been snatched away, the shields of men. Right, this should be where orum, so that's a form of syncope. Syncopation is when we shorten words. And the helms or helmets, and the brave bodies are so the Simuis rolls them over under its waves, under the waves. And Simuis actually is it's masculine here. It's a funny form, but this is nominative, and it's usually personified as a male god, river god, right? So, um, yeah. So Aeneas here is saying at the end, he wished that he had been killed by Tydeus or Diomedes at the gates of Troy, just like all the others. He's mentioning up here, 304 times blessed, that they were to die there, instead of being subject to the perils on the sea and the suffering there. Right. So, again, this is our first speech from Aeneas. So we constantly, even though we don't want to judge, we want to feel out what kind of leader he is. So, and we'll have plenty of opportunity to do that. But in any event, that is Aeneid, Book 1, lines 81 through 101 of the AP syllabus, When the Winds Attack. And we'll see how they get out of this, if they do. Oh, studentes. Walete, and take care.